So I was really in two minds whether to do this video or not, because I thought, is it really worth the trouble? If people are targeting you online, is it worth provoking them even more? But then I thought about it a bit more, and I thought about my political principles, and I thought about people that I respect in politics and in history in general, and I thought about all this sorts of stuff, and it's like, if I can't stand up for myself in this regard, do I really believe these things? And I know it'd be more comfortable just to not bother, but there's some things I want to highlight when talking about this issue. So basically, I was doxxed and I was brigaded again for talking about PewDiePie and migration. And the doxing wasn't so bad. They were just sharing my name around in the forum, saying what my real name was and stuff, which you might think on the surface, that's not so bad, but then you think what that can lead to, if you know someone's real name, maybe find out where they work, find out their address, all these different things, and it can obviously cause problems. You know, I haven't got anything to hide, but then you just don't want complications to people you know and everything. And then there is a certain risk when you put yourself online, when you show your face, because these people, obviously on 4chan, no one is even sharing a username really, let alone a face. So when you're putting yourself in the public eye, there is a certain element of risk involved, and when you're talking about political concepts and you're coming at it from a left-wing perspective, I guess you can always expect pushback, and I've had it in the past multiple times, and I've had people brigading my channel. I've had other right-wing YouTubers making videos of me, their fans coming over to my channel saying awful stuff. But then the main thing here is basically, I can handle the comments about my appearance and even just racist insults, which I find really strange from white people towards another white person. But the doxing stuff is just a bit concerning, because when a sinister group like a bunch of neo-Nazis are talking about this stuff, it is kind of scary. The main thing for me is I have obviously political heroes and who stood up to way worse things, and if I even want to be a fraction of a bit like them, then I have to do stuff like this, even if I don't particularly want to, and I don't really want the grief from it. So I'm going to quickly read for you some of the comments they gave me on the 4chan forum. I'm not going to read out my own name. I know some of you do know it, but I've taken precautions now, and I've privated a lot of stuff, and I've basically hidden a lot of my personal details, which I don't like doing. I'm not a very private person online. I always stand by my beliefs, but when there's stuff like this, just not worth it. Let's get into some of the comments. So, no Irish man looks like that, not even the dark Irish with Spanish in them, and this is just the beginning of a lot of racism against me, which I just find really strange. So he isn't even brown-eyed, he's got black eyes and the facial structure of a Chechnyan. Funny enough, I actually have heard that before from other comments. So talking about my education, degree in history and master's in international relations, called it Jewish propaganda. A lot of these commenters are all saying I'm a Jew and I'm a communist, which I honestly don't give a shit about, really. If you think I'm not white, I don't care. But it obviously shows how their version of being a white person is not very inclusive, even if you do have white skin, just to give you a sense of how racist these people are. So someone else said he's not even Irish either, he barely fits either of those phenotypes, he's a mutt, and I think a mutt basically means that you're a white person with features from, I guess, people who aren't traditionally white in the sort of waspish sense of the word, meaning they're not Germanic or native English or something. So he's a mutt at best and has some heavy so Mediterranean genes, or maybe parents are race mixes and one of them is Middle Eastern. They are not. And as I've explained in the past, I'm literally totally Irish and all my traceable family is Irish, but they can't really handle this. So comments like this I didn't particularly like. Can someone please dox this bong faggot? And obviously they were sharing my name around in the forum. So yeah, that's all a bit concerning. I don't like that too much. Who cares what this spick thinks? Again, a lot of people were saying I was Hispanic as well, and obviously in a derogatory term, meaning that I'm a lesser human being for being so. Just some comments about PewDiePie came in as well. I unironically enjoy the fact that PewDiePie went from annoying let's play faggot to far-right internet Nazi, and it's so rich he can drop red pills on his young as fuck audience. He may have bred an entire generation of people who hate libs. Greatest redemption arc. Proving my point that a lot of alt-right people like PewDiePie. Someone else saying, let it be known this man is claiming that he is white. Again, you just gotta look at my skin. I'm really pale, but again, I don't place any value on having pale skin. So someone saying, those features are from N-word invasions and Muslim conquering. Eastern European has roach blood. I think they're talking about Muslims as roaches. Again, lovely people here. So no dark hair, dark eyes are not white. Again, lots of racism against me, which is just really strange in my opinion. Someone else saying that Goblino can pass as a fellow white Brazilian. Since he has pitch black hair, that's an indicator that he's Arabic, Jewish, Hispanic or Russian Mongol ancestry. So someone else saying, it's honestly hard to tell Amerimuts and Jews apart, you know, but I agree with your sentiment. A Jewish communist, I am shocked, I tell you, I am shocked. Again, people saying I am Jewish. Someone else saying, non-white, looks like a beady-eyed Jew, probably just some Asiatic spick though. Disgusting either way, I hate gross-looking non-whites. So again, that just gives you the sense of the racism at play. Now, right now, as I'm talking, I'm going to play you me just scrolling through my YouTube comments, because they also brigaded my YouTube channel and they're not much better. Personal insults about me. So they like to use a lot of slurs and just generally try and trash talk me. But now I want to get into why I personally feel it's important for us not to cower to Nazis and people like this doing things, because I had discussions with people, should I make this video? Should I put myself at risk? This would happen again, they could escalate it, all that stuff. And like I was saying at the start of the video, a lot of my political heroes, and I'm trying to write a book at the moment, an anti-fascist book, and I've been inspired by the White Rose movement in Nazi Germany, which was a bunch of students at a university who published anti-fascist leaflets and they were all executed. And I just find it inspiring people my age did something like that in this, you know, during the war as well. Nazis had total control. Most people are on board with the cause of the war, and you have these really brave students doing these things. Obviously, I have a lot of other people I respect, like people like Fidel Castro and Che Guevara, who obviously fought fascists, American-backed fascists in Cuba. Obviously, Che Guevara was a guy who took his revolution across the world. But again, these people fought these overwhelming odds and put their lives on the line. If they can do that, and I even want to be a tiny bit like them, then I probably do something about speaking up to fascists. Now, my main point here is that I think there is a problem with white people in general, that I think even though a lot of us are anti-fascist, and you guys who follow me for a while know I'm an anti-fascist, I think a lot of white people, especially people who are maybe centre-left and centrist, don't take the threat of fascism seriously, because I think subconsciously a lot of people think it won't affect them. And a lot of people may be right, but then you see the strain of white supremacy in these comments, where even people like me, who have benefited from white privilege my whole life, who's always been classed as a white person by society, even people like me are suspect, because these types of people believe in a really old school form of racism which has its roots back in the 1500s, right? It's the same type of racism the Spanish used against people who had converted to Christianity, who came from other countries in the Mediterranean, mainly from North African territories and everything like that, to say you aren't a real Christian. How can you be a real Christian with all your dark features? And that is, like a video I've made in the past, the origins of this white supremacist narrative. And the ironic thing was that the Europeans in Holland and England flipped this on its head and said to the Spanish, well, look at you guys, you're tan with dark features, so you guys obviously aren't pure Christians because you must have Muslim or Jewish blood. And that's the type of racism these guys are using. And just like how the Nazis placed obviously an emphasis on being an Aryan, and these guys do as well, there isn't room for people who look like me in this type of fascism. Not that I've ever been pro-fascism, obviously, but you can't be complacent because you're a target as well. Not to mention that me being a leftist makes me a target anyway, because who went to the concentration camps? It was the socialists as well. And I obviously made another video talking about the links between the persecution of the Jews and socialists, and I've talked about cultural Marxism, this term that is basically that the Jews control everything in the world and they are controlling communist and leftist movements because a lot of the Bolsheviks were Jews. And of course, if you're a leftist, you're being led or in the pay of the Jews to do all these things, so you're just as bad as them in the Nazis' views. So a lot of the time I think what happens with a lot of white people, and it frustrates me as someone who is such an anti-racist and always speaks out about these things, and I get a lot of pushback by a lot of people, and it frustrates me because I feel like people need to take it more seriously. You can't leave the anti-fascism, the anti-racism, you can't leave that up just to the people who will suffer first from it. So I'm talking about the people who aren't white. You can't just leave it to them to be the voices against these things. And obviously I'm a person who hasn't left it to them, because on my channel I dedicate a lot of my videos to being anti-racist, but I think a lot of white people don't take the threat of fascism and white nationalism seriously. And I think a lot of the time they don't take it seriously because they don't think, subconsciously at least, that they're under threat from these things. And like I've shown you in this thread of these Nazis and their problems with people like me, even though on the surface you would think, you know, you're white so you could fit into the fascist system, you can see how that can turn, and they would target people like me, target people who don't fit into this very narrow view of what a white person or what a traditional country looks like in the vein of the people who used to live there. Then you are at risk as well, and I think people need to take it more seriously. And that is just one reason you should do it, and I'm saying that should be the wake-up call. I obviously think you should do it anyway, because you should use your privilege, you should use your status in society to help people who are at threat most. And I feel like not enough white people do this, and I get disappointed at the extent of the racial, I guess, analysis of a lot of these problems doesn't really extend far enough. And that's why a lot of the times I get a lot of pushback on different things, because people think I'm being dramatic or I'm being over the top, whether it's talking about the links between Christianity and the origins of modern racism, whether it's talking about racism being a modern social construct in the way we understand it today. I get a lot of pushback on these things, even from people on the left, but I think people should wake up and really help dissect these things a bit better. And like I'm saying, we can't leave the fight against fascism and racism to people who are directly affected by it now. You've got to take up the mantle more. And that's why it annoys me so much to see the centrist resurgence in things like the Democratic Party and the Labour Party, because these people just don't do enough, and that's why I don't like them. They don't recognise the problems. They don't place a value on non-white lives. The fact that people like Joe Biden are getting a pass on the Iraq War, Tony Blair's getting a bit more of a pass on the Iraq War. Literally, you destroyed a whole country. You killed. Your actions resulted in millions of deaths, and we're just meant to forget that. And we're meant to say that you're not a racist, but you literally do not value the lives of different peoples the same as you value people from this country, and primarily white people from this country. And it's a problem that is just so ingrained in our society, and I just hope things like this will make people realise you can't, even in a selfish way, you can't minimise it. And I'm hoping it makes people wake up and know this doesn't just affect people that maybe you don't have any contact with. Maybe you're in a majority white country, maybe you're in a majority white area, maybe you don't experience all these things, maybe you don't see these things, so you like to tell yourself it doesn't exist. But neo-Nazis and fascists are on the rise, and we have to be vigilant. And I hope we can come together and speak out against these things a bit better. And I don't want to make this video in terms of, I don't want the grief. I didn't like dealing with all this stuff. Like I said, I don't mind the insults. I don't even mind the racism to an extent, because I find it crazy. But when it gets into more sinister territory, when you've got people with a violent ideology talking about doxing you and stuff, that makes it more real, and it makes me want to not put myself out there. But like I said, you've got to take the example of people, and you've got to do it. People who are in way worse situations and did it. Way, way braver people. So that is it, really. That's all I wanted to say, and just highlight this thing. Again, I didn't really want to make this video, but I thought I should. And I'm not going to stop what I'm doing. I'm not going to stop being an anti-racist, even if it does maybe push the boundaries to some people, even who have a similar political ideology to me. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to stop with this stuff, and I'm going to keep saying what I want. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please follow me on social media if you want. Just the Twitter is the main one, so that's @TheCavernacle. Check out all the other stuff. Check out the Reddit, so r/TheCavernacle for the subreddit, u/TommyCahill1995 for my personal account. Also, maybe check out WordPress and Patreon in the description. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.